Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel with a new video about World of Tanks. Today I am continuing the tutorial series with the episode 201. It's the first episode of the second series, so it will be a little bit more advanced than what we used to see in the first series. Anyway, today we are talking only about accuracy and aiming. So first, let's take a look at tank information for a statistic that would impact the accuracy. First you have the accuracy value for the gun, and in this case it's 0.37, and then we have the aiming time 2.29. The accuracy value is the average distance at which your shells will deviate from the center of your reticle, and this is a value estimated in meters for every 100 meters between you and your target. The accuracy value is correct if you are fully aimed at your opponent, and the size of your circle when you are fully aimed is equal to 3 times your accuracy value. So let's make an example with this gun. If I fire at a target located at 100 meters away from me and I am fully focused, then most of my shells will deviate at 0.37 meters away from my reticle, and some could even land at 1 meters and 11 centimeters away from the center of my reticle. If my target is located 200 meters away from me, those values would be doubled. Let's take a look at how it is represented in game. Imagine that the white circle is the circle when I am fully aimed. It would be equal to the triple of my accuracy value shown in the tank's statistics. The accuracy value shown in the tank statistics would correspond more or less to the green circle in the middle, and this is where most of your shells will deviate. At 350 meters of distance, this roughly corresponds to an average deviation of 1.3 meters and a maximum deviation of 3.9 meters. I have also mentioned the aiming time. This is the time in seconds that it takes to reduce the size of your circle by a third of its initial value. I will go more in details later, but basically for now what you have to remember is that if your tank is moving, rotating, and your turret is rotating, and you come to a full stop, it will take 3 times your aiming time to fully aim at your target. If you are only moving or rotating the turret, or a combination of those elements, then it will take less than 3 times your aiming time, but remember it will take in average longer than what it is displayed to fully aim at your target. Let me show you an example. Here, my tank is fully aimed. If I move, my reticle will grow. If I stop my tank now, it will take me 2 seconds and 29 milliseconds to fully aim, just because I moved my tank hull. When my tank will fully aim, my shells will deviate in average at 0.30 meters per 100 meters between me and my target. However, as you can see, if I rotate my turret, my reticle will also expand. And if I move and rotate my turret, it will be worse. The worst case possible is when you move and you rotate your hull and your turret at the same time. In this case, your circle will just grow dramatically, and it will take you 3 times your aiming time in order to fully aim at your target. It's because every tank has some factor defining how much your reticle will expand when you rotate your turret and your hull, and they are not shown directly in game, so I will show you the values from the wiki. For example, here my base accuracy is 0.37, but if I move my turret, I will add 0.12, so it would be 0.49. You have to add the acceleration value if your tank is moving, and the turning value if your tank hull is rotating. Also, you will have to add the shot recoil, and this is a very high value, so if you have a fast firing gun, you could reload faster than what it takes to aim, so be careful with that. It is very important to check those values when you buy a tank or when you upgrade it, just because it will heavily affect how your tank will feel when you drive it. For example, if your aiming time is more or less 3 seconds, you know that it will take forever during a battle to aim at an opponent, especially if you are rotating and moving at the same time. The hidden values, which I am displaying currently on the right part of the screen, are different for every tank, which means that some tanks are really good at firing on the move because the dispersion values are really low, but for some other tanks you will have much higher values and therefore they will be horrible at aiming on the move. One last comment about those stats, whether they are shown or hidden. They are correct only if your crew qualification is 100%. Basically, aiming time and accuracy are affected by your crew qualification, and if the formula is similar to the PC version, when you have only 50% of qualification you will have a penalty of more or less 22%. So now that you know how it works, I want to show you some examples, mostly focused on do we need to fully aim at an opponent, or can we afford to shoot directly at a target even if you are still moving? My reasoning is always the same. If there is nothing that forces me to fire on the move, I will always fully aim at my opponent to make sure that my shell will deal some damage to him. So this will be, for example, the majority of your shots. You have a dangerous target, you have no reason to rush your shot, so you just carefully aim and you take it down. If there is an emergency, a special case, then I will consider firing on the move, but this should not be the majority of my shots. So let me show you some situations that will force you to fire on the move. If your target is going to disappear behind a cover, then you will not have the time to shoot at it. So for example here he's retreating and I want to take him down, so I'm firing on the move. If you are targeted by the opponent and you don't have the armor to sustain their fire, you want to avoid their shells, therefore you don't want to stay immobile. You are not forced to fire, so it's up to you, but if you need to fire, do it on the move. If you know that the enemy artillery is shooting at you because you have the detected symbol and you know that no one else can shoot at you, you always want to stay in movement. Therefore, if you need to shoot while you are targeted by the artillery, keep moving. Never, never, never stop. If a friend of yours is in danger, you might not have the time to fully aim. If you are circling around an opponent to avoid their return fire, obviously you will not stop at any moment to aim, so just use the auto aim and fire on the move. At the beginning of the battle, if you want to scout the enemy team, you will want to reach a vantage position early, and therefore you will not have the time to aim at some opponents, so you might want to fire at them on the move just to put some pressure on them and make them retreat. It's up to you if you want to fire or not, but for sure you will not have the time to stop, so if you shoot, shoot on the move. If you need to move or rotate your hull because an opponent is trying to circle you, then you will not have the time to fully aim. If you are not in any of the situations, especially if you are facing an opponent that is hard to penetrate, well, you will need to fully aim. So if you fire without fully aiming at your opponent and you miss, ask yourself the question, was it a mistake or not? This player has just done an amazing game in the Tiger 2 and he clearly made the right decisions, at least when it came to aiming. If you look at the post-game stats, it says 17 fired shots and 17 penetrations, so basically each time he fired he did some damage to the opponent, and it resulted in an insane amount of damage and a clearly well-deserved first position. Unless you are a scout, most of your best game will be when you'll have a high accuracy result at the end of the game. So if you want to increase the accuracy and aiming time values of your tank directly, you have a few options, and the first one will be to have some crew skills and perks. Smooth Ride will reduce the acceleration dispersion value, so basically you will be less inaccurate when you fire on the move. Snapshot will do exactly the same, but for the turret turning contribution dispersion value, so basically you will be less inaccurate when your turret is rotating. Brother in Arm will improve the crew qualification and the efficiency of all other skills and perks, so it will affect slightly, but still it will affect the accuracy and the aiming time. It has more or less the same effect of putting some cola, pudding or tea in your tanks depending on your nation, so you can add that as well if you want to improve the efficiency of your tank. This is basically the same also as the ventilation, which is an equipment, so put a ventilation if you want to improve slightly all the values of your tank. If you want some benefits only to your aiming time, you can use the enhanced gun laying drive, which is really helpful especially for Russian guns or let's say long time aiming guns. I am thinking for example for artilleries, this is mandatory. And the last piece of equipment will be the vertical stabilizer, which will reduce by 20% the penalties of dispersion when you are firing on the move or when your turret is rotating. This is for example incredibly helpful on all medium tanks. Now I will finish this video by showing you some tips and tricks related to aiming. If an opponent is circling around you, never use the auto aim, it will always miss, so you will need to fire manually at your opponents. If your target disappears, you can still shoot at it, especially if it's immobile. It's called a blind shot. However, if you want to blind shot an enemy on a ridge, you will need to aim at the lowest point possible, else your shot will just go too high in the air. If you need to fire on a moving opponent, you will need to lead your target, and basically you will have to take into account the distance, the velocity of your shell and the speed of your target. The last tip is to defend yourself against artillery. Since they have to fully aim at you if they want to have a chance of hitting you, the best solution to protect against artillery is to keep moving and do some zigzags, so don't go in straight line but keep turning your tank. So this will be all for today. I hope that this video was helpful to some of you, and well, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.